Okay, ladies, so we are going to learn today about the ablative absolute and the passive periphrastic. This is from chapter 24 in Wheelock, so you can follow along in Wheelock as well. Now, both the ablative absolute and the passive periphrastic are types of participial phrases, or maybe a better definition is that they use the participles in order to form, okay? The ablative absolute consists of a noun and a participle both in the ablative, so that's the most important part. That's the ablative part of the ablative absolute. The absolute part is called that because the ablative absolute is not grammatically related to the rest of the sentence, okay? So meaning the participle can't be describing the direct object or the nominative, the subject, or anything like that. It's its own little thing. When you see an ablative absolute, generally the noun or the pronoun in the ablative will come first, and then the participle will come second. And if that participle has anything in the predicate, such as a direct object or an ablative of means, something like that, those things will usually be placed between the noun and the participle. Now, sometimes the ablative absolute is just two nouns in the ablative or a noun and an adjective in the ablative, and this is because the participle for the verb to be is implied. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is actually how the Romans recorded the years in which things happened. So there was a long list of all the years and what two men were consul during that year. So if a Roman wanted to say that something took place in a particular year, and let's say he wanted to say that something took place in what we consider 59 BCE, he would say Caesare et Bibulo consulibus. So when Caesar and Crassus were consuls. Okay, so the most general way to translate the ablative absolute is as a phrase, with the noun having been participled, or with the noun participling, or with the noun about to participle, depending on the tense and the voice of your participle. But like other participial phrases that we've learned, the ablative absolute often sounds kind of awkward in English. So very, very, very often, you're going to want to use a clause. You're going to want to translate the ablative absolute as a clause using the conjunctions when, since, or although. And like the other participle phrases that we have learned, you will also want to pay attention to the tense of the ablative absolute participle in relation to the tense of the main verb. So if the participle is in the present, it's telling you that the action happened at the same time as the main verb. If it's in the perfect, it happened before the main verb. Future happened after the main verb. Now, for the following sentences, I would like for you to write these out in your notes and attempt to translate the ablative absolute here. I'm going to go over the first couple with you verbally, and you should write them down. And the first one, Roma visa milites gaudebant. So, Roma visa milites gaudebant. We have our main sentence, milites gaudebant, and then we have this ablative absolute that is not grammatically related to the rest of the sentence. It's its own little thing. Our main sentence translates, the soldiers were rejoicing. And our ablative absolute, we want to translate as a phrase first, with the noun, perfect passive participle, having been participled. So with Rome having been seen, the soldiers were rejoicing. Okay. And again, in this, we'll skip example number 2. You should put this in your notes though, but let's go to number 3. Tyranno imperium tenente senatores ex urbe fugerunt. We have our main sentence, the senatores ex urbe fugerunt, the senators fled from the city. And then we have our ablative absolute. We want to translate our ablative noun and our ablative participle, this participle being in the present active. So with the tyrant holding power, the senators fled from the city. Again, if we want to translate this as a clause, we could simply put the conjunction since. So since the tyrant held power, the senators fled from the city. This present active participle, tenente, I translated as held because the present participle is telling me that it happened at the same time as fugerunt, a perfect verb. So please write out the second, fourth, fifth, and sixth examples. Give them a shot. We'll go over them tomorrow in class. Now, the second grammatical construction, grammar construction you are learning in Chapter 24 is the passive periphrastic, very impressively named, but really not a difficult construction. The most important thing you need to know is that the passive periphrastic conveys necessity, okay? It means something must happen. The passive periphrastic consists of two words. The first word is a gerundive with its ending changed to match the gender and the number of the subject. And the second word is a form of the verb to be. It can be any form of the verb to be, in the indicative, in the infinitive, whatever, in the subjunctive, which we'll learn later. If the form of the verb to be is present, the passive periphrastic translates as must be. If it is a past tense, the passive periphrastic translates as had to be. And if it's a future tense, it translates as will have to be. Now, when we translate a passive indicative, we expect to find an ablative of agent, right, telling us who did the passive action. Passive periphrastic does not use ablative of agent. Instead, it uses its own little niche, and that is the dative of agent. So you will see a dative of agent with the passive periphrastic, and the most important thing to remember about the dative of agent is that it translates by. So let's look at an example. The first example on this slide, illa femina omnibus laudanda est. Now we have our gerundive, right, the nda, that's the future passive participle. So we know that laudanda est is present because the form of the verb to be that we have here is present. So this is going to translate must be praised. Now, this ending on laudanda, the A ending, is telling us that our subject is going to be singular and feminine. So illa femina is our subject of laudanda est. And then omnibus is our dative of agent. So the entire sentence translates, that woman must be praised by all. Okay, why don't you write down the second and the third example? Try translating them, and we will go over them tomorrow in class. And again, pay special attention to the tense of the verb to be, arit and arat. All right, ladies, that's the end of our lesson for tonight. Come in tomorrow with your notes and your questions and your translations of the sentences. Have a good night.